Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this farmhouse themed Valentine's door swag using the paint stir stick method. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. I've received lots of messages asking if we could create some more Valentine door swags on the 5-gallon paint stir stick, and so that's what we'll be making today. Friends, if you are new here to the channel, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about DIY step-by-step wreath and door swag tutorials. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week. So if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join us. You'll find a full materials and supplies list for you below in the description of this video. So if you'd like to recreate this beauty, you can sure do so. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase today's door swag, I'll leave my Etsy link for you below as well. So we're going to use a standard 5-gallon paint stir stick. I actually buy these in bulk from Amazon. I prefer to get them from Amazon, although you can also pick them up at basically any hardware store. But when you buy them from Amazon, they don't have the ruler markings. It's just a blank canvas for you. And so I prefer to grab them from Amazon. Just for reference, the 5-gallon paint stir stick is about 17 inches in length. You're going to need 6 standard pipe cleaners. You'll just want to grab some pipe cleaners that are color coordinated with your design. And the first thing we're going to do is take pipe cleaner number 1, and there's a little bit of an indent here near the top of the paint stir stick. And we're just going to wrap this pipe cleaner right around that indentation. We're going to give it 2 or 3 tight twists. And after you've made those tight twists, then create an X at the top of that pipe cleaner and then just twist those guys around each other. And what we're doing here, guys, is making a loop so that we or our customers can then hang this from their door. So we've just created the door hanger. Now we're going to flip that guy over, and we're going to be adding 5 single pipe cleaners down the base of our paint stir stick. So we're going to add the first one right at the top, directly underneath that hanger that we just added. You're just going to want to center that and give it 2 or 3 tight twists. Just like that. And then you can kind of leave them in a U shape here, or a V. Then we're going to come down to the bottom about an inch or so up from the bottom there. And we're going to add our next pipe cleaner. You're welcome to measure this out if you would like to, friends. I just eyeball it. So again, it's a couple inches from the bottom, or about 1.5 inches from the bottom. I've given it a couple of tight twists, and my pipe cleaners are pointing straight up. We're going to add our next pipe cleaner to the middle of our paint stir stick. And again, give it a couple, 2 or 3 tight twists, and point those guys up. And now we'll add our last 2 in between our first 3. So we'll add 1 in the middle here and 1 in the middle here. Once you've got all of your pipe cleaners added, go ahead and take your hot glue gun and just run a couple of stripes of glue right over those pipe cleaners. That's going to help to anchor those guys down so they don't slide anywhere. Our door swag today is going to have a little bit of a cute farmhouse country vibe to it. We're going to use 2 different colors of 10-inch deco mesh, the metallic red and the burlap colored. Remember, we've got 5 pipe cleaners on our door swag, and each pipe cleaner is going to get 2 pieces of deco mesh. So what we're going to do at this point is get our deco mesh pieces cut. We're going to cut 5 pieces of the burlap or tan colored and 5 pieces of the metallic red at 24 inches in length. So you can use your ruler and scissors to cut that mesh if that's what you've got handy. If you're new to wreath making, I would definitely recommend getting a self-healing mat. That's what you see in the background here. This particular mat is 36 inches by 24. They come in a variety of sizes, and you can cut directly on this mat without harming your workstation. And then you would also use a rotary cutter, which basically works like a mini pizza cutter, and it lets you cut your deco mesh quickly with nice clean lines. And to use it, you basically just roll out that deco mesh to your desired length, in our case 24 inches. Grab that cutter and just roll it straight up like a pizza cutter. I'll leave a link for these below for you. So go ahead and cut 5 pieces of the red, 5 pieces of the tan at 24 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your 10 deco mesh pieces cut, go ahead and grab your paint stir stick and bring it back to your work area. By now your glue should be nice and dry. And I would recommend that you also grab a chip clip or a clothespin for this next step. We're going to go ahead and add our deco mesh pieces into the paint stir stick, and we're going to be adding cruffles into our paint stir stick. If you're new to working with deco mesh, friends, it loves to fray. So anything that we can do as creators to help reduce that fray is always ideal. And the cruffle method is a great way to do that. And so we're going to grab a single piece of deco mesh. It doesn't matter what color. I'm going to start with a burlap color, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. And you're going to lay your single piece of deco mesh in front of you, curl side up. I always like to add a weight in the middle of my mesh so that it doesn't curl in on itself. And at the one end, you're going to curl that mesh in 3 times to tuck away that raw edge and prevent that fray. Then grab your clip, pinch that guy down in the middle just to hold it in place, and spin that mesh piece around. And then we're going to curl the other end 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. We'll remove that weight. And now we're just going to scrunch and gather this mesh. Forgive my finger here, friends. I'm nursing a cut. All the way to the end of the piece of that mesh. Release that clip. And you just created a cruffle. And basically what a cruffle is a curl on each end and then a ruffle in the middle, hence the cruffle. And we're going to come to our paint stir stick. You can start at the top or bottom, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to start here at the bottom, and we're going to add that cruffle in. And so for this bottom cruffle, let me just spin my pipe cleaners. I'm going to have that cruffle going horizontally. So I've placed it all the way down to the base of the V of my pipe cleaners. And I'm going to give it a single super tight twist. So it's going to look just like that. And we're going to alternate colors. So since I started with tan, I'm going to go tan, red, tan, red, tan. And we're going to do 1 layer at a time. So now I'll grab a piece of red deco mesh. I'm going to bring that to my work area. Lay something in the middle of that mesh to keep it from rolling up on itself. It's curl side up. I'm going to curl my end here 3 times to tuck away that mesh. Pinch that with my clip. Spin that guy around. And now I'm going to curl the other end 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. And then scrunch and gather that mesh back into my hand. Just like that. Then we'll release that clip. We'll come back to our paint stir stick, and since we went horizontally with our first piece, we'll go vertically with the next. So I'm going to lay that down in the center, all the way down to the base of those pipe cleaners, and give them 1 or 2 super tight twists, just like that. So now let's go ahead and add in our last 3 pieces, alternating colors and directions, and then I'll meet you back here. So I've just finished adding my first layer of deco mesh. So I've got 1 curl in every single set of pipe cleaners. I've alternated colors and directions. And so we've got a good base going, but it's still looking pretty thin. So we're going to add a second layer of deco mesh into our pipe cleaners, and we're going to go the opposite direction and in the opposite colors. So we'll do 1 together and then we'll speed ahead. I'm going to start at the bottom again. Last time I used burlap colored in that bottom set of pipe cleaners going horizontally. So this time I'm going to add a red piece going vertically. So we'll be going opposite colors in opposite directions to really make it nice and full. So I've grabbed a piece of red. It's curl side up in my workstation. I'm going to curl those ends in 3 times and pinch that with my clip. Spin that guy around. Curl my opposite end 3 times. And I'm going to ruffle that mesh in the middle here. All the way to the end, and I'll release my clip. We'll pinch that guy in the middle. We'll come back to our pipe cleaner. It's a little bit trickier on the second layer, friends, because you're fighting the mesh on your first layer, so just give yourself some grace. So I'm going to add that right on top, this time going vertically, and I'm going to give my pipe cleaners 2 super duper tight twists, just like that. So now that pipe cleaner's got 2 pieces of deco mesh. So we're going to follow that same process all the way up our paint stir stick, making sure that you alternate colors and directions. So for instance, this next set of pipe cleaners, I had used red on the first layer going vertically. So now I'm going to add a burlap colored cruffle going horizontally. And we'll repeat that process until we've added our second piece to every single set of pipe cleaners, and then I'll meet you back here. Now that we've added our second layer of deco mesh cruffles, look how nice and full this swag is becoming. So remember, it started out as 17 inches in length, and now it's measuring about 24 inches in length and about 11 inches in width. So we've definitely given this guy some amazing fullness. So for this particular door swag, friends, I really wanted to do something with some really relaxing, simple yet beautiful farmhouse vibes. And so we're not going to add any signs or attachments. We're going to build this beauty out with lots of ribbon by way of bows and ribbon tails. And then we're going to add a little bit of greenery in just to really complete that look. So we're going to set this guy off to the side. And what we're going to do is make our bougie bow. So remember, we've got our 5 pipe cleaner ties. We're going to add a bougie bow to the center. And then we're going to add ribbon tail clusters to the upper 2 pipe cleaners and the lower 2. So I've actually grabbed 5 different types of wired ribbon. It doesn't matter what width you use, friends, just make sure that it's wired. That's what really helps maintain a beautiful shape for your bow and your tails. I like to mix it up between 2.5 inch wide ribbon and 1.5 inch wide ribbon, totally up to you. So we're going to start out with the 2.5 inch wide ribbons. So go ahead and grab a good pair of scissors and your ruler, or just use your self-healing mat for measurement purposes. So we're going to start with a 2.5 inch black and white check. I'm going to grab my ruler just so that you can see what we're doing here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull out a couple of feet so it's easy to work with. You're also going to want to have a pipe cleaner on hand, just a standard length that matches your ribbon choice, and fold that guy into a loose V and have him sitting nearby, because we'll be using this to secure our bow once we get that finished. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure out approximately a 6.5 inch tail. And guys, not looking for perfection here, no one's going to be measuring. So I've just pinched that in my hand, and then I want a 5 inch loop. And so to get a 5 inch loop, just measure out to the 10 inch mark, give that a pinch, fold that back into your hand. Then we're going to make our second loop, also at 10 inches, to give us that 5 inch loop. Once we're finished, give that a good pinch and fold that back into your hand. And now we'll measure out our tail at 6.5 inches. And trim off our excess bit of ribbon. We're just going to be making 2 loops and 2 tails of every ribbon type. So I'm going to let my left hand be my holding hand and my right hand be my working hand. We're going to move on to our next ribbon. Same measurements. So we're going to measure a 6.5 inch tail and give that a pinch. Give it a twist. Let's roll some of that out here. A hard twist. You always want that pretty side up. We're going to lay that right on top of the last ribbon that we used. And now I don't need to measure, friends. I can just eyeball and use my previous loops as my guide. If you're not comfortable doing that, just go ahead and use your ruler. Once you have them in your hand, you can always marry them up onto one another like that to make sure that they land in the same place. And then a 6.5 inch tail, and we'll cut that guy off. Next, we're going to use this 1.5 inch striped ribbon, super cute. We're going to keep a 6 inch tail from here on out. So I'm going to find that 6 inch mark, give that a pinch, lay that in my hand right on top of my previous. I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist. You always want that pretty side up. And I want my loops about a 1/2 inch shorter. So I'm just going to eyeball. They're about a 1/2 inch shorter. I'm going to give that a hard twist. And make one more loop, also a 1/2 inch shorter. We'll make sure they meet at the same spot, and they do. And then we're going to cut off our 6 inch tail. Next, we're going to use our 1.5 inch burlap with black trim. We'll be doing that 6 inch tail. Give that a pinch, lay it in our hand, give that a nice hard twist. We're going to be making those loops approximately the same size as our previous loops. Give it a hard twist. And make sure those loops are the same, and they are. And measure out that tail at 6 inches and trim that guy off. Last but not least, we've got our heart ribbon. So we'll find that 6 inch to 6.5 inch spot. It's a really stiff ribbon, so I'm going to put that underneath my hand. Give that a really hard twist. And we're going to make those loops just about a 1/4 inch smaller than our previous loops. So between 4 and 4.5 inch loops. Remember, you can always marry them up onto one another to make sure they're the right length. And then we'll cut off a 6 inch tail. So now we're going to grab that pipe cleaner we had pulled out earlier and wrap that around our bow stack here. And you want the open end on the back side. Forgive my process here, friends, it's a little clunky since I'm nursing a cut. And you're going to wrap that around and just really pull that guy as absolutely as tight as you can get it. Tight, tight, tight. Once you've got that nice and tight, just twist those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 times just to really secure that guy in. And now I'm going to do a rough fluff of my bow or my ribbon stack. And so I just take my pipe cleaners and put it between a couple of my fingers to hold it in place. And so I like to start at the bottom. So if I've got a tail on the left, I want a loop on the right, and then on the other side. So it'll go loop, loop, tail, tail. And you're basically forming an X. So if you can see that, I've got an X pattern with the loops and an X pattern with those tails. And then with my red ribbon, we'll go the opposite way. We'll have those loops right above those tails, and then the tail above the loop. And we'll repeat that process on the bottom. And not looking for perfection, guys. We're going to fluff this guy again once we get it into our door swag. And I'm just repeating that process. The loops and tails back and forth in alternating directions. So once you've got that rough fluff, we're going to add that guy into our door swag. So I'm going to take my scissors and just trim off that excess bit of pipe cleaner that we used to secure our bow. I'm also going to take my scissors and trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners from that middle set of pipe cleaners. Because our bow stack is so thick for this particular bow, we're going to use a 20 gauge floral wire stem. I'm just going to fold that guy into a loose V. I'm going to wrap that right around the center of our bow stack and flip that guy upside down. And then I'm going to give it just a single tight twist here, just so it doesn't slide around. Then we're going to come back into our swag and run those floral wire stems right beside that central pipe cleaner that we just trimmed off. And then once you get it to the back side, just go ahead and give that guy 3 or 4 tight twists. Make sure you're happy with that bow placement. You want to tighten that at about 80% tension. You want it nice and secure, but you don't want to tie it so tightly that it recedes too far into your swag. So we've just trimmed off those excess bits of floral wire. I'm going to pinch those together and then just kind of point them back down into that pipe cleaner so that it's not a sharp edge. Now we can flip this guy over, and we're going to take a couple minutes and do that final fluff on our bow. So just follow that same recipe I shared with you at the beginning, starting at the bottom, making an X with each layer of ribbon, and alternate between those tails and loops, and then I'll meet you back here. So once you've got that bow fluffed out, go ahead and angle cut or dovetail those ends. I'm going to go ahead and dovetail. To dovetail, you're just going to fold that ribbon tail in half, and then on the folded side, not the open side, come down about 3/4 of an inch and cut up diagonally to that corner to give you that nice, pretty V. How stinking cute. All right, let's set this guy off to the side and work on some tails. Now we're going to add our tail clusters to our very top set of pipe cleaners and our very bottom. And so we're going to cut 2 strips because we'll be using 1 piece for each set of pipe cleaners. So go ahead and cut 2 pieces of every single ribbon at 12 inches in length. Dovetail those ends, and I'll meet you back here. I've got all of my ribbon strips cut and my ends dovetailed, and so now we're going to make our tail clusters. We're going to start with a 2.5 inch and work our way up in that same pattern that we used for a bow. So I'm going to grab my first ribbon, which is the 2.5 inch buffalo checked. I'm just going to eyeball it to find that center and give it a pinch. You're welcome to measure if that's easier for you. We'll do the second 2.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to lay that right on top. I'm not going to worry about spreading those out yet. We'll use our third ribbon, laying that guy on top. Our fourth ribbon, and our fifth ribbon. This one's a really stiff ribbon. So I'm just laying those all in my hand, just like that. Just keep those guys out of the way. I'm going to come to my door swag, to that very bottom set of pipe cleaners, and I'm going to lay that stack right down into the base of those pipe cleaners and give them 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. Then I'm going to use my needle nose pliers and trim the excess bits of pipe cleaner off. We don't need those. And toss them away. And now we can fluff out our ribbon tails. I'm just going to make an X pattern just like I did before, guys, with those 2.5 inch ribbons. I'm starting from the bottom, as you can see, and then I'll do the same thing with that next layer. And then for that middle heart ribbon, I'm just going to kind of let it go whimsically. So once I've got that X pattern made, I'm going to take my fingers starting at the bottom and pull those ribbons between my fingers kind of up and over, which is going to give them this cute little bump. That's why we like to use wired ribbon, guys, because it holds its shape. It's got good memory. All right, now that we've got our tail cluster added to the lower set of pipe cleaners on our swag, we're going to repeat that same process for the uppermost set of pipe cleaners on our swag. So let's speed ahead and we'll get those added in. How stinking cute is this coming along, guys? Oh my goodness. Now we've got 2 more sets of tails to make for the 2nd and 4th pipe cleaners that are buried between our other ribbon bundles. And so I want you to choose your 2 favorite ribbons that are the 1.5 inch width. I'm going to use these 2 and we're going to make 2 pieces at 10 inches in length of each of those 2 favorites. And we're going to dovetail those ends and then I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your ribbon tails trimmed, we're going to use 1 of each. And we're going to put one on top of the other. Doesn't matter which one's first. You're going to eyeball to find that center and just give it a pinch in your fingers. And then come into that set of pipe cleaners. Add those tails down in and give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super tight twists. And then go ahead and trim off that excess bit with your small snips or scissors. And then once you get those ends trimmed, just go ahead and pull those tails into a narrow X. Run your fingers over them if you would like to give them that little bit of a curvature, just like that. And then we're going to do that same process to that last set of pipe cleaners, which is nestled between the 1st and the 3rd. Look how stinking cute that is, guys. No sign. We just let the beauty and simplicity of our ribbon do the talking. And what a beautiful statement piece. We've got 1 more step. I've got a 1.5 inch foam glitter heart that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to give that a couple of squirts of glue on the back and just nestle it in whimsically here between our bows in that center point. So just a couple of dollops of hot glue, being mindful not to touch that guy. That was smart. We're going to tuck that in there and then let that be while it dries. And then we're going to add just a few pieces of greenery. This is a greenery vine bush from Hobby Lobby. Friends, if you are new to wreath making, you will soon discover that florals are nearly always going to be the most expensive part of wreath making. So just a quick pro tip for you, Hobby Lobby has all of their florals on sale for at least 40% off every other week. So when it's time to buy florals, make sure you're mindful of that sale. And I really love this viney bush because you get a ton of pieces out of it. It's really a heavy duty piece, and so it withstands the elements pretty well. And so what I do is, you can see there's just like little fingerlings all along this vine, and I cut them off right at the base. So they're a couple of inches long and look like that. And then I just kind of sprinkle them throughout my design. So I'm going to cut off 6 of them or so. We can always cut more if we need. And I'm definitely going to add 1 to the center of each of my ribbon tail bundles. And so I'm just going to run a 1/2 inch bead of glue right over that little tail there and just stick that right at the center. I'm going to hold it for about 15 seconds to give it some time to grab. Friends, I do recommend using Gorilla Glue sticks. Doesn't matter what gun you really use, but I have found over the years that Gorilla Glue sticks really withstand the heat and the cold outside. They don't come undone. So we've added that first piece in. I'm going to come in here to my double ribbon tail bundle here that we just added. I've added a little plop of glue. Just going to whittle my way in there and stick that guy in there as well. I'm going to spin this around. And we're going to add one at the center of our upper ribbon tail bundles. I always like to lean those right up against where we've cut off that pipe cleaner, because those pipe cleaner nubs are really good adherents for our greenery. And then I'm going to add one on either side of that middle bougie bow that we added, just kind of whimsically, guys. You can add as many or as few of these as you wish. This is just a recipe. I just think that greenery gives it a little bit more of a farmhouse feel. And this beauty is finished. Oh my goodness, how stinking cute. Today I'm going to teach you how to make this Valentine wreath on a Dollar Tree frame using the one roll deco mesh method. We're going to make today's Valentine's wreath on a 14-inch wire frame that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. You'll find a full supplies list for you below in the description of this video so that you can recreate this beauty if you'd like to do so. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase today's wreath, I'll leave an Etsy link for you below as well. Go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun. If you're new to wreath making, friends, this is what's called a wire wreath frame. We'll be using the Dollar Tree wire frame today, and the frame, if you can see, it's a little bit beveled on the front side. The back side is flat. You've got 4 rings, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll find crossbars all the way around the wreath to give that wreath stability, and the space between one crossbar and the next is what we call a section. We're going to do today's wreath using the one roll deco mesh method. This is a really easy and cost-effective way to make a wreath. The first thing we need to do is build out our wreath base. And so I want you to grab a handful of standard 12-inch length pipe cleaners. You're going to need 18 in total. You'll want to grab some pipe cleaners that somewhat match in color to the theme of your wreath. And we're going to add 3 pipe cleaners per section. So pipe cleaner number 1 is going to go around rings 1 and 2 right in the center of those 2 crossbars. So I'm just going to run that underneath rings 1 and 2, right in the center there, and give them a couple of tight twists and point those guys inwards. Then the next 2 pipe cleaners are going to go around rings 3 and 4, and they'll be pointing outwards. So we're going to center these as best we can. Not looking for perfection here, guys. No one's going to be measuring. And so the 3 pipe cleaners should look something like this in your first section. So the first pipe cleaner is in the center of your 2 crossbars around rings 1 and 2. And then the other 2 pipe cleaners will be around rings 3 and 4, also centered about a third of the way in between those 2 crossbars. We're going to repeat this same pattern in every single section all the way around our wire wreath frame, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got all of your pipe cleaners added into the wire wreath frame, it should look something like this. So you should have 3 per each section. And the next step is to add a little dollop of glue where the pipe cleaners meet our wire frame, just to keep those guys from sliding around. I'm just going to add a dollop of glue on rings 2 and 3 where those pipe cleaners meet the frame. We don't need to glue both sides, one will do. I'm just running an inch bead of glue right on top of those pipe cleaners and our wire frame to anchor those guys down. And of course, I've put an old piece of cardboard underneath just to catch any glue drips. Once you've got all of your glue dollops added to those pipe cleaners, go ahead and set your wreath base off to the side to dry. The next thing we're going to do is prepare our sign. This sign also came from the Dollar Tree. It's just a 12-inch round, thin, heavy-duty cardboard sign. We're going to go ahead and cut off this hanger. We don't need that. And then I'm going to gently pop off that bow because I don't want that either. Just be real careful when you pop that off if you choose to do so, so that you don't harm your sign. And now I'm going to turn this guy over so that we can add a couple of mounting brackets. Friends, here is what a mounting bracket is. If you're new to them, they're basically just little plastic adhesive squares. This is the top and this is the bottom side. And they're great for adding attachments into your wreath. And so if you can see here, there's actually holes on all four sides around this bracket, allowing you to run your pipe cleaner or floral wire stem through there to attach it to your wreath. And then the back side's just got some heavy duty sticky tape to adhere to your sign. We're going to use two, one near the top and one near the bottom. Just give it a good hard push. It doesn't need to be straight. No one's ever going to see it. And then for some extra security, we're going to take our hot glue gun and just run a bead of glue all the way around each of those brackets to give it some extra strength. Now we'll set our sign off to the side to dry, and we'll go ahead and grab our wreath frame to start adding in some deco mesh. So I've chosen a 10-inch roll of deco mesh that's got this really pretty metallic white, red, and pink. It matches our sign really nicely. We'll be using just this roll. And I've also grabbed my 12-inch ruler. And today we're going to use what's called the poof and double curl method. This method, friends, is really great to help reduce fraying. If you're new to working with deco mesh loves to fray. And so anything that we can do as a creator to help reduce that fray is always ideal. At this point, your wreath doesn't have a top or bottom, so you can start at any point here on your wreath frame. We're just going to start on the outer level of pipe cleaners. And I like to roll out 1.5 feet or so of my deco mesh. And the first thing we need to do is anchor it down. And so what I'm going to do is place my thumbs stationary on the mesh and use my other fingers to crawl that mesh back into my hand. So we've got this little tail. And then I'm going to take that tail and tuck that back under into my hand to tuck away that raw edge and help reduce that fray. So coming to any set of pipe cleaners on that lower level, we're going to open up the set of pipe cleaners into a wide V, and then we're going to take our deco mesh tail and place it all the way down to the base at the center of that V, and then give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super tight twists and point them outwards again. And what we've done here, friends, is anchor down our mesh. We're going to use 10-inch poofs for the lower level. And so what we're going to do is grab our ruler, place that right on the most recent pipe cleaner that we've used, identify that 10-inch mark, and again, guys, not looking for perfection, no one's going to be measuring. And then at that 10-inch mark, we're just going to scrunch and gather that mesh just like we did earlier and pinch that between our fingers. We'll come to the very next set of lower level pipe cleaners, take that pinch and place it all the way down to the base at the center of the V of those pipe cleaners and give them 2 or 3 tight twists, just like that. And we've just added our first lower level 10-inch poof. Let's do one more together and then we'll speed ahead. So we'll grab our ruler, lay it on the most recent set of pipe cleaners that we've used, identify that 10-inch mark, pinch and gather our mesh to create that poof. We'll come to the very next set of lower level pipe cleaners and open them into a V. And then we'll place that mesh all the way down to the base of that V. And then give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 tight twists to really secure that poof in. Go ahead and repeat the same process all the way around the lower level of your wreath frame, and then I'll meet you back here. It's time to add our last lower level poof. And so we're going to follow that same method as before, friends. Go ahead and lay that ruler down on your most recent set of pipe cleaners. Identify that 10-inch mark. Scrunch and gather your mesh. And we're going to be adding this last poof right on top of where we anchor down our tail. And so I'm just going to gently untwist those pipe cleaners and then add this poof right on top. And I promise, guys, it's not going to go anywhere. Deco mesh has a good memory. So as long as you're careful, you can just place that guy right on top of where we started, all the way down to the base. Give those pipe cleaners a couple of tight twists, and we've just added our last lower level poof. And so now we're going to repeat that same process on the upper level. The only difference is that upper level is going to have 8-inch poofs, and we need to jump our mesh from the lower level to the upper level. So identify that first set of pipe cleaners on the upper level that's closest to where we're making the jump. Grab that mesh and pull it tautly in your hand. We're not making a poof. And place it down at the center of the V of that upper level set of pipe cleaners. And give it a couple of tight twists. And point those guys inwards. Let me zoom in here for you, friends. So as you can see, that jump from the lower level to the upper level is only about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and it's just a taut jump of our mesh. And now we can carry on with adding in our upper level poofs. So we'll lay our ruler down at that first set of upper level pipe cleaners. We'll identify that 8-inch mark, and again, not looking for perfection here, guys. Scrunch and gather that mesh into your hand. Come to that very next set of upper level pipe cleaners. Open them into a wide V and press and place that mesh all the way down to the base of that V. Give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 tight twists. And you've just added your first upper level poof. Go ahead and repeat that same process all the way around that upper level, adding 8-inch poofs, and I'll meet you back here. It's time to add our last upper level poof. So we're going to take our ruler, place that on top of our most recent set of pipe cleaners, identify that 8-inch mark, scrunch and gather our mesh. And we're going to add this on top of the pipe cleaners where we made the jump. So just spread those pipe cleaners into a wide V, place that mesh right on top, and give it 2 or 3 tight twists. And we've just added our last upper level poof. So now we need to cut off the remaining bit of our mesh. So go ahead and grab your scissors. And here's what I do, guys. I just take my mesh and I'm going to use my left hand as a guard, and I'm going to lay that between my excess mesh and the neighboring poof. I'm just going to come up about 1.5 inches on that mesh and gently cut it off, leaving about a 1-inch tail, which is totally fine. Nobody's going to see it. And so now we've just finished adding all of our poofs into our wreath base, and it's already looking super cute, nice, light and airy. However, we do need a little bit more coverage. And so we're going to move on to the next set of adding our deco mesh in, which would be curls. So go ahead and set your wreath base off to the side. And we're going to cut the entire remaining bit of our deco mesh roll. I'm going to use my rotary cutter and self-healing mat to cut the remaining roll of our deco mesh. If you're new to wreath making, friends, and you're not familiar with the self-healing mat, they come in a variety of sizes. The one that you see here in the background is 36 inches by 24, and it's got measurements all the way around so that you can use this as your guide for cutting. And then the rotary cutter basically just looks like a mini pizza cutter, and it's going to cut your deco mesh with nice, clean, quick lines and will help to reduce the fray. They're very cost effective, and I'll leave a link for for you below in the description of this video if you'd like to add this to your toolkit. So the first thing I'm going to do is just clean up this jaggedy roll of mesh so that we can start with that clean line. And we're going to cut the entire remainder of this roll into 10-inch pieces. And so using your self-healing mat and rotary cutter or your ruler and scissors, go ahead and cut your mesh into 10-inch pieces. Just cut the entire remainder of your roll, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've cut down the remainder of your deco mesh roll, and go ahead and grab your wreath base and bring it back to your work area. Now, depending on the length of the roll of your deco mesh, friends, you're going to have a varying number of leftover pieces. You'll have at least 16, which will allow you to put one curl in every single set of pipe cleaner ties, but go ahead and use all the pieces. So if you had a larger roll, which would allow you to add 2 curls, that's great. If you can only add 1 curl to each set of pipe cleaners, that's fine. If you're going to alternate, doesn't matter. Just go ahead and make sure you use up all those curls. And to make a curl, guys, all you're going to do is grab a piece of deco mesh, lay it in your work area, curl side up, and roll that piece of deco mesh into a cylindrical tube or curl. It's going to be about 1.5 inches in diameter there in the center, and then of course it will flare at the ends. I only have enough mesh to add 1 curl per set of pipe cleaner ties. So what I'm going to do is come to any set of ties, doesn't matter where you start, every single set of ties is going to get at least 1 curl. Take that curl and place it all the way down to the base of that pipe cleaner, and give it 2 or 3 tight twists. And you just added your first curl. Now, if you have enough to add 2 curls to every single set of ties, you'll repeat that same pattern. You're just going to place 1 curl on top of the other so it makes a loose X. Place that loose X or double set of curls all the way down to the base of your pipe cleaner ties and secure them in. Go ahead and add your curls throughout your entire wreath base, and I'll meet you back here. Now that we've added in our curls, look how much fuller and cute that wreath base is. Okay, it's on to the next step. Now it's time to add our ribbon tails into our wreath. So I'm going to scoot this guy off to the side. And remember, we've got 16 pipe cleaner ties on our wreath base. And I've grabbed 4 wired 1.5-inch ribbons that match our sign. We'll be cutting 8 pieces of each ribbon type at 10 inches in length. Let me show you a quick trick. Cutting your ribbon tails quickly. We're just going to identify that 10-inch mark, and as always, friends, no one's looking for perfection here. So find that 10-inch mark and then fold it onto itself the total number of times that you need for your pieces. We'll be folding our ribbon accordion style. Once you've got that total number of pieces folded accordion style at the measurement that you wish, cut off the remaining bits of the ribbon, and then just run your scissors through those folds to separate out those ribbon tails. And then flip that ribbon stack to the other side and do the same thing. Separate your tails out and make them pretty side up here in your stack. And then know the strength of your scissors, friends. Mine can cut out 3 to 4 pieces depending on the thickness of the ribbon. So I'm just going to take 3 pieces, marry up those ends. You can dovetail or angle trim your ends. I'm just going to angle trim, so I'm coming down about 3/4 of an inch and cutting up diagonally to the corner. I'll flip that ribbon stack around to the other end, marry up those ends, and trim off my ends. So I'm going to repeat this process until I have all of my ribbon tails cut, and then I'll meet you back here. Once you've got all of your ribbon tails cut and those ends trimmed, go ahead and grab your wreath base and bring it back to your work area. We're going to add 2 ribbon tails to every single set of pipe cleaners throughout our wreath base. So you're going to match up your ribbons in whatever fashion you choose, and you're going to just lay one ribbon on top of the other. Fold it in half to identify that center point, or you can just eyeball it. And then you're going to pinch and pleat in the middle. Fold those ribbon tails into a loose V over your thumb. Come to any set of lower level pipe cleaner ties. Place those 2 ribbon tails all the way down to the base. And give those pipe cleaners 3 or 4 tight twists. Once you've added those pipe cleaners in, you can go ahead and take your small snips or scissors and trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaner. You won't need them anymore. And then I just take my fingers and kind of curl back that little pipe cleaner nub. And then I just fluff out my tails. And by fluffing out my tails, guys, all I really mean is I pull them away from the center of my wreath, like so. And I'm going to alternate back and forth between my ribbon pairs. So let's move on to the next. Again, you'll take your 2 ribbon tails, lay one on top of the other, identify that center point either by eyeballing it or folding it in half. Give that a good pinch in the middle. Fold that into a loose V over your finger. Come to that very next set of pipe cleaners, open them up into a wide V. Place that set of ribbon tails all the way down to the base. Give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 tight twists. And then with your small scissors or your snips, trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners and toss them away. Then you'll just curl that pipe cleaner tail or nub back and out of the way. Fluff out those tails and move on to the next. Go ahead and get all of your ribbon tails added into your wreath frame, and I'll meet you back here. Now that our ribbon tails are fully loaded, look how stinking cute this beauty is turning out to be. So the next step in our process is to add our sign. By now those mounting brackets are nice and dry. I've grabbed 2 20-gauge floral wire stems that we'll be using to anchor this guy down. So I'm just gonna fold the floral wire stems in half, run it through that mounting bracket, give a couple of twists so it doesn't slide out, and then do the same thing on the bottom bracket. And we're going to add this sign right to the center of our wreath. So it's going to be laying just like this. And all we're going to do, one end at a time, is run those floral wire stems right through our mesh. Give yourself some grace, guys. This takes just a minute. We'll flip it to the back. I like to run it around the crossbar, guys. It just helps it to prevent the sliding. So I'm going to give it a couple of loose twists, and then I'll flip it around to make sure I'm still happy with the placement. And I am. Then we'll do the same thing to that lower level. And you want to pull those floral wire stems at about 80% tension. You want it nice and secure, but you don't want to sink that sign in there so deeply that it looks sunken. Once you're happy with that placement, give those floral wire stems 2 or 3 more twists, and then grab your small snips and trim off those excess bits of floral wire. We're going to grab our needle nose pliers and just pinch those floral wire stem ends together and kind of curl them back into the wreath. That way, if someone happens to grab the wreath right there, they're not going to get poked. How stinking cute. And this beauty is finished. Oh my goodness, how stinking cute, and a super cost-effective wreath to make.
Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this Valentine ribbon wreath using the Dollar Tree heart frame. Let's dive in.
We're going to use 2 of the Dollar Tree wire heart frames. And we're going to wrap them in ribbon. So you'll want to choose your favorite 1.5-inch wired Valentine themed ribbon and have your hot glue gun plugged in. And we're going to wrap both of our wire heart frames with the same ribbon for this tutorial. Again, friends, this is just a recipe, so feel free to use the ribbon of your choice. Feel free to change your ribbon between the two frames. I'm going to actually pull off a manageable strip here because my ribbon spool is large. If you have a smaller standard size ribbon roll such as this, just go ahead and keep that intact so you don't have pieces. And all we're going to do, friends, is wrap this entire frame with our ribbon. So I'm going to start out on a straight side and then we're going to work our way around. So I'm just going to put a stripe of blue and then fold my ribbon over onto that glue. And I'm going to use my scissors to press that down and give it a good solid hold. Once your ribbon is nice and anchored down, we're just going to grab our ribbon and wrap. So we're just going to pull that pretty tautly, making sure that that glue is not going to come undone, and overlap itself by half a width's worth of ribbon. And we're just going to wrap, wrap, wrap.
Near every crossbar, you're going to want to add a dollop of glue to the wire of your frame just to make sure that your ribbon doesn't slide. You can see that I'm doing this more often on the curvature of the heart to keep that in its place. When you get to the point of the top of the heart and the bottom, you want to continue to add dollops of glue to really keep that ribbon from sliding. We'll repeat that exact same process on the second frame. Grab your hot glue gun and add a generous amount of hot glue to the bottom of your first wreath. Now grab your second wreath and add that catty corner and give it a good hard press. I'm going to go ahead and add my heavy duty cutters right on top to give that some weight and give it a couple of minutes to dry while I grab 2 pipe cleaners. After you've given that glue a couple of minutes to dry, go ahead and remove that heavy weight, and then we're going to wrap a pipe cleaner around the 2 connecting points of our hearts for some extra security. Make sure you pull your pipe cleaners as tightly as you can and give it 3 or 4 super tight twists. Now we'll add our second pipe cleaner about 1 inch apart from the first. Now we'll grab our scissors or small crafting snips and just trim off the excess bits of those pipe cleaners. Let's go ahead and make our bow for the connecting point of our hearts. I've grabbed a 2.5-inch velvet ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a solid red 1.5-inch glitter, and then we'll use a little bit of the same ribbon that we wrapped our wire wreath frames in. The Dollar Tree ribbon, unfortunately, is only 1 yard, so we're going to cut that into 4ths and use that as ribbon tails. Let's go ahead and make a quick and easy hand bow. We're going to start out with those 4 pieces of velvet ribbon from the Dollar Tree and add those to our left working hand first as ribbon tails. I've grabbed my 1.5-inch wired red glitter ribbon and I'm going to make 2 tails and 4 loops. Those loops will be approximately 4 to 5 inches in length. I've placed that red ribbon underneath my thumb and I'm folding that over into a 4 to 5 inch loop, pinching that underneath my thumb, giving it a hard twist so it's always pretty side out, and making my next loop. To make sure your loops are the same length, just pull them up and connect them to one another to make sure they reach the same spot. And now we're on to loop number 3. Once we've got the 4 loops, I'm going to go ahead and trim off that excess ribbon, leaving about a 10-inch tail. And now we're on to the last ribbon. I'll be making those tails between 8 and 10 inches in length. And again, I'll be making 4 loops. For this ribbon type, I'm going to make those loops just a little bit smaller. I would guess that they are 3.5 to 4 inches in length. Once you've got your 4 loops, go ahead and trim off an 8 to 10 inch ribbon tail. I've just grabbed a matching pipe cleaner and I'm going to give that 3 or 4 super tight twists on the back side of my bow to secure it. I'm going to do a rough fluff of the bow at this point. Basically, I'm just going to make sure those tails are going in the right direction as well as the loops. Let's get that attached to our wreath. I'm just going to connect that right where the 2 hearts meet. I'm going to wrap it around the back side and secure that pipe cleaner by giving it 3 or 4 super tight twists. All right, let's go ahead and fluff out those tails and loops. I'm just going to spread those loops apart and open them up with my fingers until they're in the placement that I'm happy with. I'm going to angle trim all of the 1.5 inch ribbon tails and then I'm going to curl them. I keep an old cardboard insert from a 10-inch roll of deco mesh in my toolbox, which is the perfect item to curl your ribbon. Just wrap that around that tube and curl it all the way to the center of that ribbon. If you're unhappy with your curls, you can do it as many times as you need. I've decided to dovetail the 2.5 inch wide ribbon to give it a nice clean finish. To dovetail, you're just going to fold that ribbon in half and then with your scissors, place them on the folded side of your ribbon, not the open side, and cut up diagonally to the corner to give you that pretty dovetail V. Here I'm just taking a quick moment to refluff my loops. Time for the last step. I grabbed a couple of heart picks from the Dollar Tree that are on a handy little clamp, and so I'm going to find 2 places near the center of the underside of that bow, clamp them in place, and give them a squirt of hot glue to keep them secure. One more final fluff of our bow and ribbon tails, and this beauty is finished. Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this Valentine's Day DIY door swag using the paint stir stick method. You'll find a full materials list for you below in the description of this video so that you can recreate this beauty if you'd like to do so. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase today's creation, I'll leave a link for my Etsy shop as well. We're going to build today's door swag on a 5-gallon paint stir stick. Go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun if you've not already done so. I actually buy these in bulk from Amazon. I'll leave a link for that for you below as well. You can also purchase these at basically any hardware store. And the 5-gallon paint stir stick, let's see how long it is. It's a little over 17 inches in length and probably an inch or so in width, and then pretty thin, of course. I prefer to grab these from Amazon because at least in our area, the 5-gallon paint stir sticks that you find at the hardware store have the measurement markings on them, and I prefer that they don't. The first thing we need to do is to add some pipe cleaners to the 5-gallon stir stick so that we can then add in our deco mesh. Guys, you're going to need 9 standard pipe cleaners. I always recommend that you choose a color that kind of matches the theme that you're working with. And as you can see, there's a curved indentation towards the top. And so we're going to take our very first pipe cleaner and wrap that around our paint stir stick right there at that curvature.
And so I'm going to give it a couple of tight twists. And then after I make those couple of tight twists, I'm going to make an X here at the top of that pipe cleaner and then just wrap it around like so. And this is going to end up being the door hanger for us or our customer. There you go. Now you've got the perfect hanger for your swag once we're finished. And so now that we've got our hanger added, let's build out the rest of our pipe cleaners. You're welcome to measure this if you would like to, friends. I don't typically, no one's really going to be measuring once you've completed it, but if you're more comfortable, you sure can do so. We're going to add 2 pipe cleaners at the top, the middle, and the bottom, and then a single pipe cleaner in between. So we're going to add pipe cleaner number 1 here at the top, right below that dipped area. I'm going to wrap it around tightly, a couple of tight twists, and off to the side, just like that. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with our second pipe cleaner. Remember, this first one's a double, and this time our pipe cleaners will be going off to the side in the opposite direction. So a couple, 2 or 3 tight twists, and then point those guys off to the side. We're going to come down to the bottom. I usually just come up about 1 inch from the bottom of our paint stir stick. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to give that pipe cleaner a couple of tight twists, point those guys off to the side, and then we'll add our second. As you guys know, if you've been around on the channel for a while, I'm nursing a pretty substantial cut on my finger, so excuse that bulky pointer finger. All right, so we've got some doubles added to the top, some doubles added to the bottom, about 1 inch above that bottom, and then right in the middle, again, I'm just going to eyeball it. You're welcome to measure. We're going to add 1 more set of doubles. All right, now that we've got all of our doubles added in, we're going to put a single in between each set of doubles, and the single is going to point straight up in the air. If any of those pipe cleaners slid, just scooch them back in place. And now what we're going to do, guys, is just grab our glue gun and run a quick stripe of glue right over where that pipe cleaner meets our paint stir stick, and that'll just keep those guys from sliding around. Once you've got those glue dollops added, go ahead and set your paint stir stick off to the side to dry, and we'll prepare our deco mesh. We're going to use 3 different colors of 10-inch deco mesh today. So we've got a solid metallic pink, a metallic white, and a metallic red. And we're actually going to do the poof and curl method. And so our poofs will be pink, and then our curls will be red and white. So if you remember, we've got a total of 8 pipe cleaners added to our paint stir stick. So we're going to need 8 pieces of the 10-inch pink deco mesh cut at 30 inches in length. So using your ruler, tape measure, and scissors, or if you're new to wreath making, I would recommend that one of your first purchases is a self-healing mat. That's what you see in the background, and a rotary cutter. A rotary cutter basically works like a pizza cutter, and it allows you to cut your mesh quickly and cleanly with nice smooth lines. And so to use the rotary cutter, basically works like a pizza cutter. You're just going to roll that mesh out to that 30-inch mark, and then just following that grid line, cut all the way up, and that'll give you your quick and clean cut. So go ahead and cut 8 pieces of the pink deco mesh at 30 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your 8 pieces of deco mesh cut at 30 inches in length, go ahead and grab your paint stir stick and bring it back to your work area. And then I would recommend that you just grab a chip clip or a clothespin or something of the sort to help you with this next process. So we're going to add one cruffle to every single set of pipe cleaners on our paint stir stick. And so to make a cruffle, you're going to grab a single piece of your deco mesh and you're going to place it in your work area curl side up. I like to add something to the top of my mesh just to act as a weight. And we're going to roll one end in 2 or 3 times. If you're new to working with deco mesh loves to fray. And so by curling in the ends here, that really helps to reduce that fray. So once you've curled that end in 2 or 3 times, go ahead and secure it with your clip in the middle. Spin that guy around. And we're going to do the exact same thing at the other end. We're just going to curl that in 2 or 3 times to tuck away those raw edges. And then once you curl your ends, we're going to create the ruffle. And to create the ruffle, you're going to use your thumbs as your stationary fingers to hold down that curl, and then use your other fingers to crawl that mesh back into your hand all the way to the end of the piece. Remove your clip, pinch that guy in the middle, and you've just created your cruffle. And basically what a cruffle is, friends, is a curl on the ends and then a ruffle in the middle. And we're going to add one cruffle to every single set of pipe cleaners. So I'm just going to start at the top, and you want that curl side up. Open your pipe cleaners into a wide V. Place that cruffle all the way down to the base there in the middle. And then give those pipe cleaners a couple, 2 or 3 tight twists to really anchor that guy down. Then you can point them back off to the side. Let's do one more together, and then we'll speed ahead. We'll grab our piece of deco mesh and bring it to our work area, curl side up. I'm going to throw my rotary cutter in the middle here as to act as a weight. We're going to curl in the ends here 2 or 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. We'll secure it with our clip. We'll spin that guy around and do the same thing to the opposite end. So we'll curl that end in 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to ruffle the middle of our mesh here all the way to the end to create our cruffle. We'll remove that clip, pinch that guy in the middle, come over to our paint stir stick, and open up our next set of pipe cleaners into a wide V. Add that guy all the way down to the base, and give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists, just like that. We're going to repeat the same process through all of the pipe cleaners, both the doubles and the singles, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, now we've got all of our cruffles added into our swag base, and look how full that's getting to be already. Friends, I do like to mention at this point, you know, this is just a recipe. So feel free to duplicate this exactly as you see it, or change out the colors and the embellishments and the sign to suit your taste. So the next step in the process, we're going to add 2 curls to every single set of pipe cleaners. So we're going to scoot this guy off to the side. And we're going to add 1 red and 1 white curl to every single set of pipe cleaners. So we're going to need 8 cuts of the white and 8 cuts of the red, and we're going to cut those pieces at 10 inches in length. And so we're just going to roll that out using our scissors and ruler, or your self-healing mat and rotary cutter at 10 inches in length. 8 pieces of each, and I'll meet you back here. Go ahead and bring your swag base back into your work area, and we're going to still be using our chip clip, and we're going to add 1 white and 1 red curl to every single set of pipe cleaners. And to make a curl, guys, it's super easy. You're just going to grab 1 piece of deco mesh, lay it in your work area, curl side up, and just basically roll that guy into a cylindrical tube all the way to the end. Just like that. It's about 1.5 inches in diameter in the middle, and then of course it flares out a bit at the ends. Once you've got that rolled into a cylindrical tube, just use your clip to pinch that guy in the middle and set it off to the side. And then we'll grab our second color and repeat that same step, laying that in our work area, curl side up, and rolling this guy into a cylindrical tube. Once you've got that second piece rolled, grab that first piece and release it from the clip. Form it into a loose X, and we're going to add this deco mesh curl X into every single set of pipe cleaners. So we'll start at the top. Open those pipe cleaners into a wide V. Place the center of your X all the way down to the base of those pipe cleaners, and just give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. It should look something like this. Let's go ahead and do one more together, and then we'll speed ahead. Grab your piece of deco mesh, lay it in your workstation, curl side up. Roll that guy into a cylindrical tube, so it's about 1.5 inches or so in diameter in that center. Pinch that with your clip and set it off to the side. Grab your second color, lay that in your workstation, curl side up, and you guessed it, roll that guy into a cylindrical tube. Now we'll grab that first piece, release it from the clip, form it into a loose X. Come to your next set of ties, open those pipe cleaners into a wide V, place that X all the way down to the base of those pipe cleaners and give them 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. And we've just added our second set of curls. Go ahead and add 2 curls, 1 red and 1 white, to every single set of pipe cleaners throughout the entire swag, and I'll meet you back here. Now that we have all of our curls added into our base, you guys look how stinking cute this is coming together and how nice and full that is. So at this point, this guy is now about 36 inches in length and 12 inches in width. This would also make a great centerpiece for your dining room table or your fireplace mantle, so lots of options with this guy. And so today we're going to do kind of a Valentine's love letter theme. So I have this really cute, looks like a Valentine's envelope with that nice raised heart on it. This actually came from the Dollar Tree. We're going to place this guy right in the middle of our swag. So this comes with a cute little twine hanger, but we actually don't need that, so I'm going to cut that guy off. And to attach this, I'm going to use my jewelry hole punch. This is a pretty cheap tool. It actually came from Amazon. I'm just going to make a little hole at the bottom and the top of the envelope here. I'm just eyeballing it, looking for that center. No need for perfection. Guys, if you don't have this little tool, I'll link it for you below. And in the meantime, until you receive that, you can just use these side holes already entered and just use some floral wire stems. So I grabbed a couple of 20 gauge floral wire stems. I'm going to fold those guys in half just to identify that center point. And I'm going to run that right through that hole on the top. And then on the back side, I'll give it just a couple of twists just to keep that guy from getting squirrely. And then we'll do the same thing for that bottom hole, folding that floral wire stem in half to identify that center point. Running our floral wire stem right through that hole we just made, or again, utilizing these top holes if you don't have that handy tool. I'm going to come around to the back side, give it a couple of twists just to keep it from sliding out. And then we'll come into our swag and anchor this guy down. To anchor this guy down, I'm going to actually place this in the center. You can certainly add it wherever you'd like. We're just going to run those floral wire stems right through our swag base and then twist them securely on the back. So once you've got your envelope anchored down, it should look something like this on the back. You're just going to want to tighten those floral wire stems at about 80% tension. You want them to be nice and secure, but not so tight that your decorative envelope recedes back into your swag. So I've trimmed off the ends there. I'm just going to pinch them together now with my needle nose pliers and kind of curl them under like so. And we're going to do the same thing to the lower level. Once you've got those ends trimmed off and curled back under, go ahead and take your hot glue gun and just run a couple of squirts of glue right on top of that guy. That serves a dual purpose. It anchors down those floral wire stems so that your envelope doesn't slide around, and it also puts some glue on those raw edges to keep them from being pokey. While these glue dollops dry, let's go ahead and make our bows. I've got two 1.5 inch wired ribbon types. So this super cute red, white, and pink heart ribbon, and then also this white with super cute love letter envelopes that matches our little sign perfectly. And we're going to make two smaller bows of identical size to add above and below our envelope sign. So you're going to need your choice of ribbon. Just make sure it's wired, friends. That'll help your bows hold its shape. Some coordinating colored pipe cleaners and a good pair of scissors. I typically make my bows by hand. However, since I'm nursing an injury, we're going to use the bow dabra today. If you're new to wreath making or bow making, the bow dabra is a great tool to have if you still struggle with bow making or if you need assistance, such as I do today. And so it's just a plastic piece that's got a slit along the top and then in the center as well. And the first thing we're going to do, is add our pipe cleaner in, and you're just going to run that guy right down the center here. You can also use floral wire if that's what you've got handy. Then tuck those guys underneath and out of the way. So we're going to cut an 18-inch strip of each ribbon type and a 14-inch strip of each ribbon type. Once you've got your strips cut, go ahead and dovetail those ends. I'm going to actually cut them both at the same time. And so you're going to put one on top of the other, fold it in half, grab your scissors, and then on the folded side, come down about 1 inch and cut up diagonally to the corner. That'll give you that pretty V, which is called a dovetail. We're going to do that to all of the pieces of our ribbon. Once you've got those ends dovetailed, go ahead and grab your bow dabra, or of course you can do this by hand. I'm going to do the heart ribbon first, and I want a 5-inch tail, so I've just measured 5 inches. I'm going to give that a little pinch. I'll give that a twist, and I'm going to add that down to the bow dabra. And then I'm going to eyeball to kind of identify that 5-inch tail mark again and slide that guy down in, just like that. So you've got a loop that's about 4 inches and 2 tails. We're going to grab the next ribbon and do the same thing, but go in the opposite direction. We're going to measure out 5 inches. Give that a pinch. Give that a hard twist. Have our tail down, create that loop, give it a pinch, and slide it down in, just like that. We're going to follow the same pattern. We'll go back to the red and white. This time we're going to do a 3.5-inch tail. Give that a pinch, a hard twist, add that into our bow dabra, make that loop a little bit smaller. And again, guys, not looking for perfection. No one's going to be measuring. And add that on top, and we'll finish up. So we're going to make that 3.5-inch tail. Give it a pinch, a hard twist, going in that opposite direction, making our loop, giving that guy a pinch, and adding it down in. So now you've got lots of cute dovetailed tails and some loops. So we're going to take our pipe cleaner and release that from the bottom of the bow dabra. Gently pull that guy up and bring it around to the back side and give it a couple of super duper tight twists. As tight as you can get it. So then I just like to place that pipe cleaner between two of my fingers, and I just separate out those tails and loops. So it should be tail, tail, loop. Tail, tail, loop. And just kind of pull them in different directions. This is just a rough fluff. We'll do the final fluff once we get this beauty added into our swag. So I'm just basically separating them out and pulling them apart. And once you've got your bow, this is the rough fluff. Just got those tails going in the right direction. We're going to add this guy into our swag, and we're going to add it directly above our envelope sign. Because our deco mesh is so dense, we're going to go ahead and trim off the excess bits of those pipe cleaners, and we're going to anchor this down using a floral wire stem. So again, just fold that guy in half, wrap that around your bow. You're going to give it a couple of 2 or 3 super duper tight twists, just like that. And then we're going to poke this guy right through our swag, right above our sign here. Just weave that guy in there. We're going to poke that through, and you don't want it to recede too much, so I'm going to poke it through, give it a couple of loose twists, flip it back over, make sure I'm happy with that placement. Yep, that looks pretty good. So we'll flip that guy back over, give it a couple more twists. You don't need too much anchoring here, guys. That bow doesn't weigh much of anything. Trim off those excess bits, pinch those ends together, and curl it back in. We aren't going to glue it yet. We'll go ahead and get that second bow made and attached, and then we'll glue these guys down. So go ahead and make a second bow following that same method, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got both of your upper and lower bows attached, those floral wires trimmed and tucked away, add a couple of dollops of glue to secure that stem down. And then we'll scooch this guy off to the side. While that's drying, we're going to go ahead and make some ribbon tails. So remember, we had a total of 8 pipe cleaners on our swag base, but we've covered up 2 of them with that envelope. So that leaves us 6. So we're going to need 6 pieces of each of our ribbon types, because we're going to add 2 tails to each remaining pipe cleaner. So the first ribbon type, this red and pink heart, we're going to cut 6 strips at 20 inches in length. And then we're going to cut 6 pieces of the envelope ribbon at 10 inches in length. So go ahead and cut all of your ribbon strips, dovetail those ends, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got all of your ribbon tails prepared, go ahead and come back to your swag. We're going to add 2 ribbon tails to every single set of remaining pipe cleaners on our swag. So take your longer ribbon, form that into an awareness ribbon. You basically want those tails a little bit longer than the awareness end. You're going to give that a pinch in the middle, so it looks something like this. Then you're going to grab your smaller ribbon, just eyeball it to find the center and give it a pinch, and add that right on top underneath your fingers, and come to any set of available pipe cleaners and add this guy right down in to the center of those pipe cleaners. And then give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. Once you've got those anchored down, grab your small snips or your scissors and trim off that excess bit of pipe cleaner. You won't need them any longer. And then I just take my fingers and kind of tuck that little nub back in and fluff out that bow. And so all I'm doing, guys, is pulling those tails away from the center of our swag, fluffing up that awareness loop, and kind of giving it a little bit of a curvature with my fingers. Let's do one more together, and then we'll speed ahead. So we'll grab our longer of the 2 ribbons and fold that guy into an awareness ribbon. so that that loop is a tad smaller than the tails. Give that a pinch in the center and just hold that with your fingers. Then grab your shorter of the ribbons, eyeball it to find the center and give it a pinch, and add that right on top of your awareness ribbon. And come to your next set of pipe cleaners, open them into a wide V, add this guy down to the base. You guys, those awareness loops can go any direction you like. And then give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. Grab your small snips or scissors and trim off that excess bit of pipe cleaner. Then just curl those little nubs back under and fluff out that bow, pulling all of your tails away from the center of your swag. Just run your fingers over them to give them a little bit of a bump and fluff out that loop. Just like that. How stinking cute is that, guys? So go ahead and add all of your tails throughout your remaining pipe cleaners, trim off those ends, and fluff out your tails, and I'll meet you back here. Oh my goodness, you guys, this is so stinking adorable. All right, we're on to our last step. I grabbed this 6-pack of glitter heart picks from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to add these guys into our swag. I'm going to take my small snips and snip this guy off completely. Let me just pull it and see if it'll come out. No. So I'm going to trim that stem off completely so I am just left with that heart, because I want to glue a heart in each of the centers of the bows. And so you'll just want to give it a good full couple of dollops of glue. Be mindful not to burn yourself, of course, and set that guy down in. We'll do the same thing below. I'm just going to have this guy pointing in the opposite direction so it's got a little bit of whimsy. So again, adding 2 or 3 full squirts of glue, being careful not to burn my hand, and adding that to the center of my bow. I'm actually going to go ahead and trim off all of these picks so that I'm just left with the foam heart. And I'm going to take a couple of dollops of glue and glue each one down at the center of our ribbon tail bundles. So I'm going to add 2 to the bottom, 2 to the top, and 1 on each side. And this beauty is finished. Oh my goodness, it turned out so cute. I sure hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you did, be sure to give this tutorial a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.